I'm here today to present a paper titled Sexual Harassment in Egypt, a Neglected Crime. The paper was originally presented at the American University in Cairo, and it was advised by Dr. Amr Hamzawi, which is actually half German, half Egyptian. Before I start my paper, I would like to ask you a question. How many of the ladies over here in this room have been sexually harassed before? Verbally, physically, at work, anywhere? 6, 7? Okay. So like around 25%, 30% at the room were sexually harassed before. 40%?
50.
50? Okay. Okay, let me hear some guesses. Okay, this one. How many, what is the percentage of sexual harassment in US, do you think? Any guesses? Go ahead.
65%.
Yes, actually it's 60%. It's like one out of 3 women is sexually harassed in the US. For example, in New York, the percentage is 63%. In Chicago is 83%. Croatia, 99%. Poland, 85% female, 44% male. Korea, 43%. Japan, 64%. Israel, 83%. Yemen, 73%. Pakistan, 96%. England, 43%. France, 1 out of 5 women is verbally harassed and 1 out of 10 is physically harassed every day. Turkey, 93%. Germany, what do you think? 60%. And for Spain, like, where's she? Okay, for Spain it's 16% actually. It's like a very low percentage. I don't have them, but like you can provide us if you know. I might research it. So as you can see, sexual harassment is not, you cannot associate it with like a specific state, culture, religion, or anywhere. It's like a worldwide phenomenon that happens everywhere with different types. It's like the verbal type, physical type, and even the psychological one. For the Egyptian case, it's very unique and different from all other cases. It's still a sexual harassment phenomenon, but it's different. The evolution of sexual harassment in Egypt actually started in 1990s. It was first in public in 1993 when a girl was sexually harassed in downtown Cairo. It was a very famous case referred to it as Al-Ataba girl. It was like the first time that Egyptians hear a girl was sexually harassed in public. Then in 2006, there were like the first mass sexual harassment that occurs in Egypt. It was in downtown in one of the holidays. One of the famous holidays is called the feast holiday. It was a mass sexual harassment that occurred in front of a cinema. It brought a lot of public attention and media attention to the case of sexual harassment. Then, 2 years later, in 2008, a worse mass sexual harassment took place, like not a single incident like a girl sexually harassed. No, it was like 50 girls sexually harassed at the same time in 2008. And then lately in 2012, it's like the feast is like the official holiday for sexual harassment in Egypt. So again, it took place in the last feast, but it went worse when a girl was sexually harassed in Asyut, in the south area of Egypt, and when she insulted her harasser back, actually he killed her. So it was the first time that like it went that worse. It was a verbal sexual harassment, she replied, and it went that far. So the purpose of this paper is to assess the Egyptian government performance in regard to the sexual harassment in Egypt. And I'm referring to an international index called Mo Ibrahim Index. And actually the paper found that there is an existence of law against sexual harassment, violence in Egypt. However, there are like a lot of problems with these laws. Some of them that they are weak, not implicitly mentioned, there is a lack of enforcement, and also there is a lack of awareness about these laws. So the reference that I'm using is the Mo Ibrahim Index. Mo Ibrahim Index is it was established in 2007. It's an international assessment guide funded by the African Institution, and actually the main purpose of the Mo Ibrahim Index is to assess the government performance. It provides tools and indicators for governments, for human rights organizations, for individuals, and it covers 4 main parts: safety and rule of law, participation and human rights, sustainable economic opportunity, and last but not least, human development. And under each one of these categories follow other subcategories that cover everything in order to assess the government. The two sections I'm referring to in this paper is the rule of law and the human rights. And the second section is the sexual harassment laws under the women's rights umbrella. So, as mentioned yesterday for the people who were here, sexual harassment is any unwanted sexual offensive or threatening behavior that is carried out through any sexual, physical, verbal act. Actually, it started as a worldwide phenomenon. It was first brought the sexual harassment phrase in the US by Cornell University students in 1967. And then it was the first sexual harassment case that happened in the US, and she was a female who was raped and then she was killed, and she had 28 neighbors who didn't speak up or do anything. So in 1970, they started a campaign, they called it Speak Out in the US, and its main purpose, actually, they were calling for two aspects: equality and anti-sexual harassment legal framework. So as you can see, it's a very old problem worldwide. As mentioned before, statistics of sexual harassment worldwide ranges 40 to 60%. And as you can all know, that sexual harassment impact has a psychological impact on the person, physical impact, and social impact. And also it affects the work productivity at organizations, it impacts the countries, the several sectors like tourism and other sectors. Okay, some statistics about the Egyptian society. More than 80% of Egyptian women are harassed every day. 62% of Egyptian men admit that they harass women. 72% of sexual harassment in Egypt wear veil, which means that actually many of my colleagues from Egypt can confirm this, that we don't have any difference between if you're veiled or not veiled, if you're whatever you're wearing, it doesn't matter. Even if you're covering your face, you're sexually harassed anyways. 56, which was actually a surprise for me, that 56% of men in Egypt said that they were harassed. But I do believe, it's my personal opinion, that this kind of harassment is more of the verbal compliment harassment. And 98% of foreigners got harassed in Egypt. The causes of sexual harassment actually vary between several aspects. But the major three aspects are economic pressure, poverty, and the high poverty. We have around 50% poverty rate in Egypt, and around 13% unemployment according to the 2013 statistics. And also social oppression. We have several, it's built on the economic pressure, including marriage conditions in Egypt. And the third aspect is westernization. People are trying to imitate what they are seeing in the movies and all of these, but are trying to expressing themselves in public. So, in reference to the laws in Egypt, we have 3 laws in Egypt that are covering or relating to sexual harassment. The first one is called insulting. It's Article 306 of the Penal Code. This law actually is covering any kind of insult, not verbal sexual harassment in specific. And it's the court of this law is a partial court, a very small court. Its penalty goes up to 1 month in prison and £100 fine, which is 10 euros. And the sexual harassment type that can, or you can put it under it, is a verbal sexual harassment. The second law is the indecent behavior, which is public display of affection. It's included in Article 278 of the Penal Code. This one is its court is a criminal court, and its penalty goes up to 3 years in prison and £5,000, which is 500 euros. And the third law is sexual assault, which is Article 268 of the Penal Code, which is actually concerning about rape, and it goes up to from 3 years to 15 years in prison, and up to 15,000 pounds penalty as a fine. The problem with these laws actually that none of them implicitly direct the phenomena of sexual harassment. We have started sexual harassment in Egypt has been since 1990, so it has been more than 20 years and no laws tackling sexual harassment. And even actually people don't know about the existence of those laws. So first, these laws are weak and not implicitly addressed in the laws. Second, they are not accessible. For example, if you're sexually harassed in the street, like normal people, they don't know about these laws. So if you go and report, you don't know, like, am I going to report it that it's an insulting or indecent behavior or whatever? And the police and the executive, actually government, is not helping at all, and they don't provide you with any assistance. Third, there's a lack of enforcement. Even if you reported the case and you went and you know everything and you're fully aware about your problem, they don't elevate the problem. What? Okay. And one of the problem, actually, one of the cases that we can mention in relation to this one, that along the history of Egypt, only one case that was reported to the police and it was elevated to the court, and there was a case that took place. It was she was a girl, actually she was a Hussein from my university, called Noha Sabri in 2008. She reported that she was sexually harassed. However, the laws required from her that she has to bring a person, a witness, and her harasser to the police station in order to file the case, which is like inaccessible for any of us. So this girl, Noha Sabri, she's a very famous girl. She insisted, she brought him, and she filed the case, and the guy actually was present for 3 years, and he was fined 5,000 pounds. After Noha Sabri, actually, like, she brought like public attention, and she brought attention to all the girls that they have to defend their rights, and they have to speak up their rights and defend them. However, again, there is a lack of awareness. Like the government, they don't do anything in relation to any of the sexual harassment causes or even impacts. However, as an alternative to the government's role, the civil society appeared. So in 2005, it was the first ever campaign by the UNFPA in Egypt. It was a very small campaign. It was like no to sexual harassment. It wasn't effective because like it was the first time. However, other civil societies initiatives, like it was a group of magazines, they started a campaign in 2008 called Kirmetna. And the campaign, like slogan, it was like respect yourself. Like it's more a common phrase in Arabic. Then in 2010, the UNFPA like revived like the campaign in 2005, but like in an online campaign because like it was a trend of online venues and everyone is there. Then we came to the revolution. In the revolution in 2011, like we had another phenomena in the Egyptian society. We had at 18 days free of sexual harassment in Tahrir Square, literally free of sexual harassment. Everyone in Tahrir Square for 18 days like protected women, protected each other, and they maintained the 3 days of sexual harassment, which like provide that we can do it. However, after the 18 days with the political conditions, sexual harassment was brought back into streets, actually, and the problem actually rapidly grown than before. Then 2 other initiatives appeared, one of them in 2011 and the other one is 2012. The first one is called Eyewitness Harassment and the second one is Harass the Harassers. However, those 2 initiatives, they deal with the problem like literally by their hands. Like for example, Harass the Harassers, they go in street, they wear like a uniform, like a green shirt, and then they like have sprays, like they either write on the harassers, I am a harasser, or even they beat him or whatever, they do the punishment themselves, which is like they are doing the role of the executive like the executive branch of the government. So like some people might disagree with those initiatives, however, they were trying to defend or like to do what the government is not doing. Finally, as you can see that we lack several things in Egypt. It might be the case in other different countries. However, the government needs to address the legal framework. First, to address the legal framework of the sexual harassment. Seriously, it has to be addressed, literally, in the law, and it has to have like punishments, specific punishments in order to tackle the crime. Second, the government has to start taking a role in spreading awareness. Like the civil society is doing a role, however, they are not that effective because they are not the ones like that have the tools or resources and all of this. The third thing, that every individual has to defend his right, has to state it, has to defend it, and has to report it.